what you need to know before you go on your first Carnival cruise. And we're going to start at the beginning. First thing you're going to do is you got to plan, right? You got to plan
Exactly.
for the cruise. So, how do you select your cruise? How do you know which cruise to go on? You decide on Carnival, but did you pick? Do you have specific dates in mind? Maybe there's certain dates that only work for you because your time off from work or a holiday or something like that. Maybe there's a certain place you want to go, a certain itinerary. Maybe there's a specific ship you want to do, like the Carnival Glory we have coming up, or some of the other ships we talked about in the past. There's a
Hmm.
lot of great Carnival ships, from smaller ships to some really big ships, like the new one, Mardi Gras. So one way you can do, one way you can bypass all of this, figuring this out, or get help, is a travel advisor. A travel advisor, or sometimes they go by the title of travel agent. That's a more traditional name.
Yep.
They can help you out with a lot of these basic questions for planning. They can help you through a lot of these steps. So
Hmm.
the information we have here isn't going to replace what a travel agent or a travel advisor can do for you, but we're going to give you the basics so you understand kind of what you're talking about before you talk to them. You can always go on the Carnival website and book it yourself, but if you're a first timer, you might want to do like we do sometimes and use a travel advisor. We usually plan starting with the dates.
Hmm.
Now, if we're looking ahead to a year, you can book cruises a year or two ahead of time. They have them available pretty far in advance.
If you're a planner like he is,
Yeah, and that can give you the advantage of being able to focus on a ship or itinerary that you're really
hmm
wanting to do. Like, say you want to do Aruba, or you want to do Alaska, or maybe a place that doesn't start with letter A. You can do that, and you can plan that, and you could work in the dates after the fact. But if you've got some time coming up in 2 months and you just want to get a cruise in real fast, you might want to start with the dates. So you can work with the travel agent on that, or you can go to the Carnival website. Other things to think about is what type of cabin you're going to want.
right?
What are the different kinds of types of cabin on Carnival?
So there's inside. There's inside.
There's
There's
inside.
balcony.
That's one of the outside ones. Yeah.
There's uh
Ocean.
ocean view.
There you go. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Um, what's it called? Obstructed view.
Yeah, well, that's a variation on the balcony and the ocean view. If it says obstructed view, there's going to be something in your view that might not make it so awesome, but that can vary a lot. There might be a lifeboat partially blocking it, it might be completely blocking it. It could be something else. Also, there's
It might be
suites.
good for people who are going to be so busy they won't have time to look out their
Yeah,
window.
yeah, yeah. If you don't care so much about having that, that can be a good deal. Also, there are types of balcony cabins typically that are called suites, and that's just
Hmm.
like in a hotel. It's very fancy, a bigger room. Um, so a lot of options. Again, a travel advisor can help you with that. If you go directly on the Carnival website, they've got room layout plans and pictures to kind of help you decide. But if you're not going to spend a lot of room in the cabin, the cheapest way to go is usually an inside cabin. And if you really don't care where you're on the ship, getting a guaranteed inside cabin just
Hmm.
means you don't pick exactly which cabin it is. You just know you're going to get the inside cabin.
Right. And
Yep.
it also depends on how many people will be
Yeah,
sailing with you.
that's
So
definitely a consideration.
if you're yourself or a couple, or if you're bringing a family
Hmm.
or a group,
Yep.
that all plays in
A-
part.
And we've done some videos on this, so you can feel free to check that out or comment if you want to hear more about this. But we got to keep moving because we're just barely getting started.
Yes,
Other things to
scratching the surface.
Yes, other things to consider are the requirements before you go on the cruise. You're going to need typically a passport.
Hmm.
Sometimes you can sail with a birth certificate, but usually a passport.
Right.
Be sure you know what you need before you go on the cruise. Check with a cruise line or check with your travel advisor.
Yep.
Next, you need to think about budgeting. Service gratuities, or just referred to as gratuities,
Hmm.
is above and beyond what the fare normally costs. When they quote you the price of the fare, that
Hmm.
typically the bottom line price is going to include, port fees, taxes, and everything else. It's going to include, certain types of food on board. I mean, you won't go hungry, and it's going to include a lot of the activities and a lot of the things. You can go on the cruise and pay basically nothing else other than what you're going to pay on that first initial charge they show you, except you'll get charged the gratuities, and that covers a portion of the staff that does things that typically you come in contact with, where you might tip them, on land, like your server at the restaurant or that sort of thing.
Hmm.
But they have a set amount that they charge everybody, and then they hand out the money to everybody on board. Well, we've done videos on this too, and there's ways to get that taken off your bill. But we generally encourage you to just uh, calculate that as part of your expense. You do
Exactly.
have the option of prepaying your gratuities, though, if
Hmm.
you want to get out of the way, so you have a empty bill at the end of the cruise. Otherwise, you're charged on the last day of cruise as you leave.
Right.
Yep. So that's a lot of information just on planning, and we're not done with planning. There's other types of planning, like once you have booked your cruise, you know what ship you're going on, you know where you're going. You got
Yep.
to think about things like, do you want to get insurance?
Yeah.
We haven't always done it honestly, but
No.
we as things get crazy in the world as we get older, I worry about having insurance. So we typically get trip insurance, and there's a lot of great resources for that. You can get it typically through the cruise line too, or you can get it separate. So something to consider and look into. Again, travel advisor can give you more information on that, or the cruise line can tell you about their. In fact, when you book, they'll give you the option of adding the cruise insurance directly through the cruise line.
Now keep in mind, all these opinions are our own, and we're just sharing them with you.
Hmm.
So
Who else's opinion would I be saying?
I'm just saying that,
Right.
you know,
It's our view,
it's
and we're
our view,
giving you
and
our
we're just
best
trying to
advice.
help you.
Yep, and we need
So
to keep going because we got a lot more information. 'Cause we're not even on the
exactly,
cruise ship yet. We're just preparing.
exactly.
When you book your cruise, you usually only have to put down a deposit. It can be a
Hmm.
really small amount. It can be a few $100s. It depends on, if they have a special deal going or what cruise line is or how far out it is. And then typically about 60 days, 90 days, sometimes even 120 days before the cruise, you'll be expected to pay the balance. So it's a good way to budget your expenses if you're booking far enough ahead in time. Like if you book a year ahead of time, you got plenty of time to pay that off. But be aware when it's time to pay the balance, you better pay it, or you may lose your reservation. And that's
Yeah,
not good.
and keep in mind, sometimes Carnival does have like help. You can set up reminders
Mhm.
to remember to pay, or
Oh, and they'll remind you. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you don't want to forget that, and you can work with your travel advisor on that too.
exactly.
I'm going to say travel advisor a lot. It's a really good way to make it easy. Again, this video will give you enough information to be dangerous. If you know a little bit, this might be enough to get you the rest of the way there, so you can book on your own. But generally, if you're new to cruising, a travel advisor, travel agent is a great way to go.
Resource.
Yes. So then, as it gets closer to the time of cruise, you're going to need to do online check-in, or at least it's encouraged. And
Hmm.
most cruise lines, like Carnival, will let you do your online check-in up to 24 hours before your cruise. And you just basically go on the computer, you fill in the information, you get all the information put in there. So it speeds up the process when you're in port. Otherwise, when you get there, it's more than just showing ID, your passport and a credit card, whatever. It's not like going to rent a car or something like that. It becomes a little bit more involved. So to get past all that, do your online check-in so it's a lot easier.
And you
Um,
may want to just bring, if it's your first time, just bring a carry-on for when you go on board the
Yep,
ship.
we'll get to that. We'll get to that. I know she's got Joy's. I'm doing a lot of talking here. Joy's got some more special tips coming up, but I'm trying to keep this in an orderly fashion. I don't know if it's working. I hope this is helpful. Another thing you'll get usually when you do your online check-in, or at least before you go on a cruise, is on Carnival. It's a little different on some cruise lines, but in Carnival, you'll have your luggage tags to print out. And that's a
Hmm.
little different than other types of travel you may have done, where you go to a all-inclusive resort or something. But on a cruise, at least a Carnival cruise, you'll get luggage tags to print out, and they have information that tells the porters in the port where your luggage needs to go, so they can get it to your room. So you want to be sure to print those out ahead of time.
Yep.
It makes it a lot easier. There's a way around it where you can hand fill them out in the port, but that slows things down a lot. So I encourage you to print those luggage tags and have it ready to go.
You don't want to be that person
You
that
don't want to
holds
be
up the
that.
line.
Yeah. So now we get to the fun stuff. That's a lot of like checking the boxes and technical, legal mumbo jumbo.
Check.
The fun stuff.
Yeah.
Now you can start thinking about being on board, being in your room.
Yeah.
What do you want when you get in a room? Well, if it's a special occasion, maybe you want decorations for a birthday, for an anniversary, honeymoon, whatever it is. You can order those through Carnival.
Yeah.
You can also order special treats for the room, like chocolate dipped strawberries
Or fruit.
or fruit. I
Or
recommend
cake.
or cake. Yes, there's a lot of stuff. They even have stuff for the kids, stuff that you might want to take to the beach, souvenir items. My humble opinion, and I don't know if you agree, but get bottled water for your room, because you may not, if you're picky about drinking water from the tap, you may want to not care for the tap water on a cruise ship. And that's not specific Carnival. It's just in general. We always get bottled water delivered to the room, and it's typically cheaper to get the a case of bottled water delivered to your room in advance than to go and buy it once you're on board. So I
Exactly.
recommend that.
Yeah.
One very important last thing that you might want to do ahead of time is to plan for any special medical needs. If you need a sharps container because you're diabetic, use needles or something like that, or you have a
Definitely.
CPAP and you need distilled water, you can arrange for that ahead of time through Carnival. So don't forget that, because once you get on board, they may not have extra distilled water. In fact, I think if you don't order ahead of time, they don't have it. But when we've ordered it ahead of time, they have it waiting in the room for us. So,
So what about extension cord
well,
for
yeah, let's
CPAP?
okay, let's get to that when we talk about packing, because we're
Okay.
almost to that part, I think.
Okay.
A couple other things you should know before you go. Before you get on the ship, it's a good idea to reserve anything special you're looking forward to, like dining at specialty dining restaurant.
Hmm.
Um, Also, if you're wanting to take an excursion, especially through the cruise line, research those, figure out what you want to do ahead of time, book that before you go on the cruise. If you really want to spoil yourself, what we like to do on Carnival is get what? Faster to the
Faster to
fun.
the fun.
So, what's faster to the fun do for you?
Oh, it will let you drop off your bags at your room and start your fun right away. It's
Well,
faster to the fun.
yeah, you can go to your room right away. You get on board faster. You
Exactly, to
get
the
your
fun.
luggage delivered to your room faster,
Faster.
and you get off the ship faster. So
Faster.
it costs a little extra, but you
It's
don't.
so worth it.
If it sounds like something you might want to do, it's not available on every single cruise and every single port. But if it's something that looks good to you that you would enjoy, be sure to book that as soon as possible, because it does sometimes sell out. It often sells out.
Yeah.
So now let's continue. Next. Oh, also, like Fast of the Fun, if you like to have your soda, or the kids like to have their soda pop, soda's not included on. You want your Coke or special coffees, or if you want alcoholic drinks, of course, they're not included. They've got a couple different program. One for the sodas and juices and stuff like that. That's called bottomless bubbles. Reserve that ahead of time to be sure you have that. And if you're like me, you'd like to have a few fun drinks on the cruise, whether it's a traditional drink or one of those cool frozen drinks that you like to drink by the pool. That's called Cheers. There's a Cheers program, and you may want to book that ahead of time. It's typically cheaper to book ahead of time than when you're on the cruise. So if that sounds like something important to you, book your soda through Bottomless Bubbles or your alcohol through Cheers. Definitely important planning. So,
Hmm.
couple more things before we get to packing. Transportation. Be sure to plan your transportation ahead of time, whether it's flying in, driving in. Don't don't wait till last minute. Things can get delayed. We like to get there a day ahead of time, so we like to plan a stay in a hotel the day before, and we
Hmm.
usually plan a hotel stay the day after if we can, especially if we have a long flight back. And after the cruise, it can be fun to have something to do after the cruise, so it's not just, oh, it's sad we're getting off the cruise. You know.
Yeah.
So
Have something to look forward to, like go to Disney or go to Disney
yes,
Springs or go to Universal.
yes. So before we get to packing, what should people do right now if they're watching this video?
They should like us.
We'll see you next time. We want to thank you for watching. We really appreciate you.
Thanks for joining Cruise Day Fun.